Peace and love, everybody. Peace, salute. Please excuse the congestion, but we're going to get through this. Okay, I wanted to come through and speak a little bit about this, kind of give some credence to the young king, Jaron Boots Ennis. Now, as we boxing enthusiasts are all aware, the phenom Jaron Boots Ennis has signed a multi-fight deal with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, and they've announced the news earlier this week, as I'm sure many of you have come into if you are a boxing head like I am. I'm definitely quite excited about the venture for the young king. As some of you may have recalled, I did a previous commentary where I expressed, I guess, a sort of angst about wanting to see some movement and some progress in the right direction for this young man, because we know he had been dealing with sweeping issues with his previous promotional business ventures that did not materialize as he would have liked, and the topsy-turvy dealings of that entire situation. And so I was definitely one of the people wishing the brother well and wishing that he come through unscathed and as quickly as possible so that he can move on and get back to this work, get back to the solidifying of himself in the game and everything else that the young man intends to claim. And to my surprise, and to I guess all of our surprise, he's been keeping his head tucked and getting that work in, which is great and actually materialized in the best way for him. He seems happy. He seems pleased with the venture that he has going on with Matchroom at the moment. And yeah, it's a wonderful thing to see. I do have a few points that I wanted to speak on concerning this new venture. One of which is how Matchroom basically can assist in, let's say, the reintroduction of Boots Ennis to the boxing world. That's kind of what is at the forefront of my mind at the moment, is what can they do, if anything, as far as a reintroduction of this young man to the boxing world with a formula, with a brand, with a presence that they can establish that can kind of set him apart or set him in line with some of the elite that we want to see him in line with, because he's certainly there talent-wise. We can align him with all of the best names that we can think of in and around his division. But at the same time, there is a branding aspect that I would love to see at play and at work and capitalized upon with Boots Ennis. And I'm interested in seeing if they will take up the challenge. Boxing heads like myself rock heavily with Boots, okay? We know him, we feel him, and we are fully on board to see him tackle and claim his place, right? Yet there are elements still untapped for him regarding people who may not be so caught up on, let's say, certain elements of his identity or personality, and let's say a sense of affability. We don't know those types of realms and not necessarily have that type of access to him because he is quite soft-spoken and all of that. Not that that is an issue, but how can they blend a sort of plan around him that suits that kind of, low-voiced personality that he has, not really too much about the talking, but super electrifying in that ring. That's where he does his talking. I'd love to see them play on these natural aspects and natural characteristics of his personality a little bit more as far as his branding. I think it would do well for Matchroom to capitalize on this, where the previous promotional team that he was with definitely dropped the ball. Now, there's a lot of work with bringing out some of those dimensions that can be done. And I think it would serve both he and his supporters well. Branding is like a center point. It's like a point of contact between the athlete or the sportsman or whoever and the fan, the supporter. It's everything for a sportsman who wants to solidify a base with his people. Okay, it serves as a point of communication, a point of connection. And I'd love to see that embarked upon and set forth. Matchroom, as they continue to hopefully build his resume, build his activity, build his name, basically. I'd love to see some big endorsements, things like that for the young King Boots. If Ryan can be backed by a corporation like Gatorade, then certainly Jerron Boots Ennis should certainly stand to gain such access as he continues to certify himself among the elite, which I'm hoping is within his trajectory. Now, in line with the theme of branding, for Boots, for me at least, is the reality that Boots is hands down walking into the building as Eddie Hearn's most skilled fighter at both 147 and 154, as far as Eddie Hearn's current stables go, the stable that he houses currently. Boots is definitely hands down coming in the number one, without a doubt. Conor Benn right now is currently the most prominent name there. And with Boots' entry, he basically snatches up the number one spot off rip. Like, that's just not even a discussion. Now, I definitely love to see a fight between Conor Benn and Boots, which I'm sure was one of the cherries presented on the cake as far as the negotiations between Boots and Eddie Hearn. I'm sure that was one of the things on the table. It would definitely certainly make for a marquee type of fight. Who wouldn't want to see that fight, right? And outside of that prospect, in reality, though, there isn't really much that I find to be enticing as far as possible contenders at Matchroom between 147 and 154. So I'm thinking that it's more than likely that Hearn and Boots will look to basically do cross-promotional deals, I guess, with other networks in order to make those other significant fights happen, right? And this brings me basically into my next inquiry. Now, Boots kicked in the door of Matchroom, okay? And within hours of the announcement, Boots called out yet again both Terrence Bud Crawford and Earl The Truth Spence in his official press release interview with Matchroom. Boots is not playing games over here, okay? He has been calling out, as we know, both of these men for years, and he ain't let up yet, and he ain't switch up yet, okay? He wants every bit of that smoke, and he's never been shy about claiming that he wants the smoke, okay? Now, with EJ, interestingly enough, with EJ staking claim basically to fight Fundora and officially becoming a 154 fighter, I doubt that the particular fight with EJ is on the near horizon. I say near horizon, not that it's not something that can happen and will happen, of course. Let's say upon Boots going to 154, but just not something that I'd see in the immediate future, right? Fundora, of course, won his fight against Tim Tszyu. And currently is suspended for the time being, of course, because he, is not permitted to fight. He has to heal and take care of all of the things that they take care of post-fight. So Fundora is suspended. And I believe he won't be cleared to fight again until sometime November or something like that around the end of the year. So with that off the table, it's not looking like, the Spence fight will be something that is readily available to us fans. But at the same time, Terrence Crawford is available. And since he has not relinquished the remaining belts that he holds at 147, that means that he is still a 147 fighter, despite his activation and the usage of leverage to fight Fundora and the Tszyu winner at 154, which is what he did, right? Now, I know some Bud fans are going to get their panties all up in a bunch, okay? Because they always do when, this particular subject matter of Bud's belts is questioned or brought up. Basically they don't want to hear a thing about the fact that Bud is holding on to dear life to those belts at 147s, but that's just the reality. And guess what? I totally understand him using them as leverage to see what he can possibly get made at 154 or what have you. But if nothing is concrete there, you are still able to defend your belts at 147. Why aren't you defending? Are you going to defend? Do you have intentions on defending? This is not shade to the man. I'm asking questions. I want to know what he's going to do. Okay? Boots is every bit willing to give you this work. What up? You feel me? Like, how many, like, this people going to just let this man run around town calling you out left and right? And I find it also bizarre that in knowing that he's being called out around town left and right, Crawford still said on multiple platforms that he is not interested in the Boots fight. But how is the larger question? Is Boots not the biggest name at 147 right now? Is he not who the fans have been calling to see you fight the most? Only second to the likes of Earl Spence? What is going on? Okay? Is this or is it not the Crawford era? Because I could have sworn you solidified this time as your time. Well, you're not claiming your time, and you're definitely not claiming your space. But I definitely see you holding tight to those belts and trying to, I guess, maybe see where you get in, where you fit in, but you're not claiming no space. I don't see the weight being thrown around. I just see, like, I don't know if it's like what I think of is like a scarce mentality. Like you think about a squirrel holding on to his goddamn nuts, trying to, like, you know what I mean, for dear life, because he don't know what the season gonna bring, I guess. And I guess, you know, this, like I said, it's not a shade to him. I totally get it. You want to make the most of the status that you have earned. But at the same time, what are you going to do? Because fans like me are on the fence looking in like, okay, well, what is the next move? Because you have not officially relinquished your belts and moved up to 154, which means that you are still currently perceived of as a 147 fighter. Why wouldn't you be defending your belts? That is the part that I find bizarre. Now, Bud is currently a free agent, so one would assume that within that posture, one would have some type of leeway and leisure, okay, to, I guess, have to commence a dialogue with any type of network that they can, because they are not tied to any one particular thing. That's the free agent status. So I'm wondering if he will look to begin a dialogue with the likes of Eddie Hearn to see what he, can do there. If he were interested, that is, in the Boots fight, which obviously, at least up until this point, he's made no claim to wanting to claim any interest to fighting Boots. But the reality is that Matchroom is a megalith corporation. Okay, Eddie has ties. Not only is he himself very powerful, but he has ties to all types of powerful players in the game. So the quote unquote bag is definitely available and can be maximized and seized with the right plan of action. Why wouldn't Crawford be interested in that? What is he holding out for? Because if it's the bag, and we talking Matchroom Eddie Hearn, who has ties to Turkey Al-Sheikh and is the sole connector to anything that we know about Saudi Arabia, Eddie Hearn is absolutely responsible for the access to that Saudi Arabia money. So even if you couldn't get it through them, you can certainly possibly get it through a partnership should the likes of Turkey Al-Sheikh or his contemporaries be interested in making such a bout. Facts or no facts, y'all. Options are on the table. And with this free agent status that I hear a lot of fans talking about, it's like, okay, well, exercise it then. You definitely have the leg room. Why wouldn't you be in negotiations and showing this sort of flexibility with the likes of Eddie Hearn in this case? Unless you were truly motherfucking, adamant, vehement about, not wanting to fight Boots. And that in itself deserves a few question marks behind that. Okay? Boots said in his recent interview with Matchroom that Crawford doesn't want to fight him. So he's heard it too, just as much as I have, of course, and everybody else is that. He's plenty aware that, Bud has been around saying, oh, I'm not, I don't want the fight, or, it's like, what? But Boots is like, yeah, he said he don't want to fight me, but where else can he go? Who else is left? No one. Now, is Boots lying about that? Now, don't try to sit up here and lie to me and tell me that there's anybody else that, the boxing world is calling for to see Bud fight. Don't sit up here and tell me the Canelo fight, because that is straight cap, okay? We all know good and goddamn well why Crawford initiated, the talks about wanting the Canelo fight, okay, and why he even insinuated such a thing. But the funny thing is that Canelo was never interested in Crawford. In fact, to my recollection, Canelo was completely off the that discussion was off the table, because he was interested in fighting Spence at that particular time. He had no interest in Crawford ever. So there is no other significant name for Bud Crawford other than Earl and other than Boots Ennis. It just is what it is. That's what we want to see as the boxing fan. Those are the two men that we want to see him, hands down, get in the ring with. Now, either way, it goes, I guess. Boots basically set a new pace for himself, and I'm glad to see him establishing this new venture for himself, tying himself in with a promotional team that he feels has his best interest, of course, and relinquishing all ties to the previous people who have kind of stifled his motion. I think that him being in alignment with Matchroom is definitely a good look. And to my understanding, this is a joint partnership with his own promotional company that he has formed. I believe it's called Boots Ennis Promotions, pretty much named after himself. And that's definitely a good look. I'm hoping that the King Boots learned some major and valuable lessons from his previous dealings with the company that he had the lawsuit against and all of that. I'm also looking forward to seeing much more activity from the King. Now, this was the initial problem that he had with the previous company, for the reason why he had filed that lawsuit against that previous promotional team, because they would not hold up their end of the bargain in providing him at least 2 to 3 fights a year as they had agreed. So, he definitely needs to be out. He definitely needs to be productive, staying active, staying sharp for all that he has ahead. Now, I know one thing is for certain. All eyes will definitely be on Eddie Hearn to see if he even thinks about dropping the ball and letting him fall to the wayside the way he basically kept Andrade. Shout out to the King Andrade, definitely one of my favorite fighters as well, but it's definitely a shame how nothing materialized, with Andrade and the Eddie Hearn partnership. So hopefully we get a much more fecund outcome, something ripe and replete with possibility and success and opportunity for the young King. Shout out to Boots Ennis, and I guess we'll see what happens from here, you guys. Salute. I'm on to the next. Peace.